What did your father, with how quick he was with his hands and the kind of volatility and stuff like that, what did that teach you about being a man?
I've never been asked that question before. I have given thought to what my father is, but very specific. It's a very interesting question. I mean, it taught me a number of things, I think, both, on the spectrum of quote unquote positivity and negativity, right? Or productivity and not productivity. Meaning, my productive contribution to society, to my life, to those around me. I mean, it taught me to be quick with my hands. It taught me to be quick with my mouth. It taught me to be hyper defensive. It taught me not to trust men, people, just really anyone, right? It taught me to not respect other humans, to not respect myself, to not respect women. It taught me that life is pretty worthless. It taught me that life is really full of pain, a lot of pain, and fear, and that we should take what's ours and just don't allow anyone into your world. Don't allow anyone into your intimate world. And when they do come into your intimate world, push them away hard by whatever means, right? And it also taught me not to be those things, quite simply, and what is the journey to let love in, and what is the journey to trust, and what is the journey for self-love? Because there was a lot of self-loathing and self-hate. So he taught me about that, about myself, because I made it mean that if he's hitting me and he's so angry at me all the time, he's just so angry in general. And if I move the wrong way, if I cough a little too much, if I drop the spoon off the table, I'm going to get reprimanded either by a physical beating or just yelled at, and like really intimidated, where I'm pissing my pants, literally urinating myself as a kid, right? Because I was so scared. Then it must mean I'm worthless. So, it taught me worthlessness about myself. And then I would have to compensate for that. So how I compensated was, again, like being that person that was available for everyone. As a little kid, I remember bringing people food. As a primary school kid, like in grade, like I was 7, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, I'd bring people food. I'd convince my grandmother to give me a $2 coin so I could give them $2 as well, so they could, but it's just so I could be liked, And so it taught me a lot about that. But again, like all of that teaches me to come back to myself. And without that, I couldn't come back to myself. But again, it also taught me to seek validation in variety and novelty in sexual partners, And look, it was some amazing experience. I'm not talking about superficial experience. I'm talking about actual deeper connections, but they were never really deep compared to what I was craving and what I was yearning for. And I wouldn't allow myself to yearn and desire. He taught me about volatility, the volatility that I experienced in life. I experienced so much in money making and business, the success and the not success of businesses, right? Like I was just emulating that volatility. And again, all of that became an opportunity to observe all that. And I'm coming from a place of hindsight now, but it's been very deep work, consistent work around changing these habits and patterns and coming back to, no, I am worthy. Just my breath, the intrinsic value of my breath. Like my daughter will say to me, "Oh, Daddy, it looks so pretty in this dress." I say, "Baby, you do. And because you breathe, you're amazing. That's it. Like you don't need to have a dress on to look amazing. And it looks really great. I love the colors, I love that you're happy in it. I love that you have so much joy that you're wearing it and it helps you feel good. But you know what? And like your breath is enough. Like you are enough." I never got that from my dad. I never got those words from my dad. I never got those showing from my dad. Maybe from my mum, but not from my dad. And so, he taught me a lot, man. He taught me about everything. The interesting thing is that although my father was overtly intense, right, and abusive and violent, all those things, trauma-inducing through his actions, because it was so obvious, that's where I started my journey of healing my childhood with the father. And as a result of that, I've really come to peace with my father. Now, the mother, on the other hand, and again, I've done really deep work around my mother, but if I have to be just really honest, especially after having a kid, particularly after having a child for about 4 years ago, right? It brought up a lot of mum stuff again. And if I have to be honest, that's not completely settled in my nervous system and in my psychology like it is with my father. I just got to be truthful.
Exactly.
So I think as I'm developing as a man, and I've made changes in how I treat women, how I treat myself, how I treat my inner feminine, how having a daughter, I am reimagining and reconnecting to, I want to use the word healing, but I don't, but I'll just use it, and then healing and making whole that relationship with my mother, right? And there's just layers to that. It's not to say that there isn't connection, I haven't done any work there. There's just stuff that's come up that it requires my attention. If I was to ignore it, I'd just be doing what I was doing for most of my life, you know.
Yeah.